What's up, everybody? Squirrel Man's back again. Sitting at home waiting for Christmas tomorrow. I'm really excited. Got all my Christmas shopping done. Got me a new hat. My buddy made this hat. By the way, I'm going to start pushing these. This was custom made, one of a kind. If you like it, I'm going to start advertising for him, plugging his stuff. But he's just getting his company off the ground. But he lasers all these hats and makes them all custom. So I'm going to start trying to get his name out there, help each other out. I really appreciate you guys helping me out, man. I really do. You guys are slowly but surely giving me good faith. You know what I'm saying? That's awesome. Good news is I'm hanging out with my brother today, and because he doesn't live around me. He lives in Colorado, and he's helping me promote this channel. He really likes what I'm doing here, so I really appreciate that. I know a lot of you guys like this prison content, and I try not to put too much of it out there. Maybe put little bits and pieces out at a time, because I try to be careful about what I say with that stuff. But this video, I would like to tell you one of my segregated housing unit experiences. The seg, the hole, as they call it. Most people have never been to prison, don't know anything about prison. They call it the hole. If you watched one of my last videos, Virginia versus North Carolina video, you know that when I was a super green rookie, I was assigned to SEG for a while before I got certified, because that's basically the only place they would let you work, because they wouldn't let you work anywhere they couldn't babysit you, because you're too much of a liability. But I remember when I first started working in SEG, and like I said, I only worked there for a few weeks, maybe a month, before I was able to go out on my own, and then I went to receiving. SEG, especially in the prison I was working at, it was an older prison. Like if you watch my past videos, like I said, it was like almost 100 years old at the time. That was a wild experience, man. It was so Hollywood, but way worse. Hollywood could never capture the stuff that I used to see all the time. They just couldn't. They couldn't make you appreciate that experience that whether you're an officer or an inmate had to go through. I remember, I think it was my first day, I was up on the third tier, which is the third floor, and talking to this inmate in this cell for one reason I can't remember, and then the guy in the next cell is batshit crazy, and he keeps reaching his arm out the damn through the bar doors trying to grab a hold of me, and he was not kidding. He was not joking around, man. He wanted to tear me up, and I'm just like, I didn't know what to think of it. All I could tell him was like, dude, if you touch me with that arm, I'm gonna break it off. You know, I'm gonna grab it and I'm just gonna break it as hard as I can. You know. But I will tell you one thing about that place that I really didn't like was how and this was like never ending. The officers and the inmates were constantly at each other's throats. There was no common ground with them. The inmates would do something to piss off the officers, and so the officers would jerk up the heat, right? And if you know anything about science, heat rises. So the heat, they crank up the heat, and if you're down on the first floor, you don't really feel it. But that heat goes all the way up. And man, if you're up on that top floor, it was like 110 degrees up there. And then these inmates would be screaming, yelling, throwing stuff out off the tiers, and a lot of them would flood their cells. They would shove anything like towels or whatever in their toilets and flood their cells. You'd be sitting there hanging out with the officers down the first floor. All of a sudden, you see a waterfall coming down, you know? And I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I'm a new guy. There's nothing I can do, you know? I wanted to say, hey, maybe if you guys stop, you know, feeding into this, they might stop doing that. But it's never ending, you know? Someone's always getting their feelings hurt. I remember one day during this was shower day. Shower day was like once a week. I think it was every Wednesday. I'll never forget, because there was these two officers. There were sergeants, and they were twins, identical twins. And I'm not going to name anybody's names. But man, one of them was crazy as shit. He was not somebody you want to play with. His brother was actually pretty cool. He was pretty easy to get along with. I mean, as an officer, it's easy to get along with both of them. But as an inmate, you really don't want to mess with the one. The one guy was nuts, man. And these guys were little. They weren't that big. They were like 5'5", 130 pounds. They weren't really big, but when in the prison system, it's all up here, man. It's all up here, dude. You know? So I will never, ever forget one day we're doing the showers and there's this one inmate and he is talking so much trash to this dude. The one sergeant that I'm telling you about. He's talking so much shit, man. And I'm just like, when is this guy going to shut up, man? Because he's in for it, man. He's setting himself up, right? You know, I don't have to be here longer than 2 seconds to figure that out, you know? But that sergeant just kept egging him on, you know, because he's feeding him back into it. He's like, dude, I do this every day, you know. He's like, we're going to send you to this other prison called Red Onion. I think it was called Red Onion. That's one of the worst facilities in the state of Virginia. But, man, this kid is just, he will not stop. He will not stop. Finally, he said something to that sergeant that really set him off. Like he really hit the wrong button, right? And then he says to me and the other new guy, we're both super green rookies, not even certified. He said, y'all go take your lunch break, man. I'll never forget it. And we were like, what are we supposed to say? I'll go, all right, bye. We came back in like 30, 45 minutes. Man, that kid, he had him stripped naked in the cell and beat the shit out of that kid, man. And he didn't speak a word from that day forth. I never heard a word out of him, you know? So that's the kinds of things I used to see on a daily basis. That's just one story, man. But that gives you insight to what it's like on the officer's side. And to be totally fair, as an officer, I could never see myself doing that to somebody, man. But not all officers are created equal. You got officers that are super evil, and then you got officers that just want to go to work, that just want to put in their hours and go home, you know? And a lot of times those officers get stuck into situations they don't want to be in, you know? And what you need to understand, if you've never done this job, you don't know anything, is you can't... How do I say, when you go into the prison system, you have to put on a certain frame of mind. And they tell you when you first start, they say, whoever you are, when you walk through those gates the first time, the first day, that's the person you have to be every single day of your career, you know? And for me, I chose to be a total hard ass. And it was so taxing on my brain and on my mental health every day that I had to be that guy every single day. Because when I walked outside the gates, I wasn't that guy. I'm not that guy, man. If you knew me, I'm super easy to get along with. Super mellow. I'm a really loving, happy guy most of the time. But you put me in that situation and you force me to be a certain way. Otherwise, because I don't want to get made an example of, you know. So if you're understanding what I'm saying, yeah, it can be very, very taxing on your mental health, man. That's why a lot of people, they just end up quitting and they're just like, I just can't take this anymore. You know, there's a lot of reasons why COs will quit. That could be a whole other video, but, yeah, I will never forget working in there. Really your only job as a rookie is to hand out trays, help them go outside, help them get to the showers. But, I will never forget some of the inmates in there. I'll never forget the guy that was always butt naked, masturbating in the cell, flinging his fluids everywhere. You know, it's like, it's so just crazy. If you're not used to seeing that stuff, it's wild, man. It's some of it's really disgusting, you know, and some people you meet in there, you're like, why are you in here, man? I mean, I met veterans in there, former Marines, and I'm like, I don't ask them about their stories because that's like really rude to ask inmates why they're in there. If you want to piss one off or just be blatantly offensive, you can ask them. But that's one thing I always try not to do. But yeah, Seg was an experience I will never ever forget for as long as I live. I remember taking him outside, and they would have these huge walls. The walls were like 40 feet high, and you'd see yourself surrounded by officers all carrying rifles and shit. I mean, this place was so old school. It was so what you would picture being in as a Hollywood movie. And not all prisons are like that now. A lot of them are getting away from a lot of this stuff. You know, cameras are taking over the positions of towers. That's why a lot of prisons aren't using towers anymore. And a big reason for that is a lot of people hate being in those towers. Being in that tower is so hard. It's hard to stay awake because they don't give you anything to entertain yourself. You're not allowed to have magazines, anything. You know, anything they will say that's going to distract your attention from what's going on. You know, you need to keep your eyes focused on the game all the time. And you know how hard that is to stay awake doing that, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's absolutely nothing going on. So anyway, that's one little story I can add or share with you guys. If you got any comments, questions, I love questions. I love some of the stuff y'all say, man, because it gives me ideas for more things to say. You guys help remind me of things maybe I wasn't thinking of at the time. Like in one of my past videos, this guy reminded me of that video I made about why do guards ignore inmates all the time? And he mentioned something about how a lot of inmates will do things to distract the guards so that they can be doing something else over here. And that is 110% true. It really is. Inmates are so well in tuned to that way of life that it's not like they have to discuss things before they do them. They're so trained to do things as far as distractions and stuff like that. And if you're not trained to look for those things, you're going to have a hard life in there. Your career is just going to be hopefully you'll learn over time, but your career is going to start out really hard. You know, I will never forget one day that when I was in North Carolina, this inmate comes bamming on the door, bang, 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 right? And somebody opened the slider and let him out. This dude is freaking out. And I was fairly new in North Carolina, and I had a rude awakening there that I could tell a whole other story about. So when he comes out the door, he's going like this, holding himself, screaming, like having a freaking seizure on the floor. I'm like, what is going on with this guy, right? I didn't waste no time. I grabbed a hold of him, took him down to medical. Turns out, he was a great actor, man. These inmates are the greatest actors. They could be in Hollywood so easily. They're some of the best drama queens you've ever met in your life. Turns out he had a really sore tooth and he just wanted to get down to medical, and he was sick and tired of waiting, right? He was good, man. He played me that day. I was so embarrassed, but I learned my lesson, right? Like, all the officers were laughing at me, and I'm like, I have a good sense of humor. I can let things roll off my back, right? I wasn't going to get all mad about it, you know? I'm like, nobody got hurt, nothing got broken, and I learned my lesson, you know? But I definitely got chewed a little bit by my sergeant for that, you know? She's like, you don't do that unless you let me know. I wish I could tell you her name, man. She's a whole other video. I am not even playing. I can make 6 or 7 videos about that woman. But anyways, I appreciate you guys. I really do. Like, share, subscribe, and common sense ain't common.